So let's talk about how the GPU shortage is a lie. So guys, we're in the middle of a GPU shortage, and all you can really do right now is just think and dream about a GPU. You can't actually buy one. So let's just talk about some of the 10 funniest, beamiest, and wild GPUs we can think of. So for number 10, we have a GPU that isn't from AMD or NVIDIA. This is an Intel GPU. It's not the new stuff, the Project G or Phi or whatever you want to call it. It's from the 90s. It's the i7-40. And this was supposed to be the next big thing in GPU technology, because it's Intel. They're huge. You think of top-of-the-line part. You used to think of top-of-the-line parts, and you thought of Intel. Unfortunately, it was a failure. It was a terrible part, couldn't keep up with any of the contemporary graphics units at the time. So what did Intel do with all their lessons and all that work? They turned it into integrated graphics. Thanks to them and their failure, we have our 720p League of Legends compatible gaming chips on our i7s. For number 9, we have a legendary GPU. This is something special. It is the 3DFX Voodoo 2. Now, when you think of glorious like Windows 98 retro PCs and you want the best of the best, or you just want to flex on everybody because you finally own your dream GPU from your childhood, you think of the Voodoo 2. Now, you want to talk about dead technology? This thing invented SLI. Now, back in the day, it wasn't every other frame for GPUs. It was every other line, because we had CRTs, and those were scan lines. Each of these GPUs had 3 different chips on them for graphics processing. So you could have 6 things trying to render Quake at the same time. And it had its own proprietary API. Instead of OpenGL, we had Glide. And honestly, it looks really good on like the games that supported it. It's a shame the company kind of went under later on when they tried to make the Voodoo 5 and Voodoo 4. For number 8, we have a laptop GPU. Like you don't think of laptops in like meme GPUs, except for that one thing that had SLI 1080s. What a nightmare. Your poor lap. This thing is the 8600M, and it's well known for killing MacBooks back in the day. It just was not a well-built part. We had issues all the time back then too. We had weird the capacitor plague, which was a whole very interesting story about corporate espionage. And we had just a very hot machine. You think of like overheating kind of thing, you think of the Xbox 360 Red Ring of Death, kind of a similar situation there. Got too hot and kind of burned itself alive. They didn't catch on fire. Well, maybe a few did, but it would have been pretty spectacular to see that happen in a business meeting. So number 7, we've got an admittedly really good piece of hardware. It's pretty solid, but it's hilarious. It's the GeForce 256. Now this is the first GPU of the GeForce lineage, so clearly the legacy was worth continuing on. Not the first GPU by NVIDIA though. And again, relatively good GPU. I keep saying GPU because this was the first GPU according to NVIDIA. We've always had graphics accelerators, you know, your 3D accelerator, your 2D accelerator, all of that. But NVIDIA decided that now we're calling it a GPU. And, you know, it wasn't meme too much back then, but imagine them holding that today. Imagine NVIDIA decides to call their next graphics chip a VR GPU or something like that. The first VR GPU. Imagine they try and coin a term like that. Like, hey, yeah, I've got a VR GPU. It's one of these. I just plug a cable into it. So yeah, pretty weird. They had a specific list of requirements for their new made-up specification. It was transform, lighting, triangle, mapping, clipping, and 10 million polygons per second, which is, your phone could do that many times over. Woo! So, pretty fun thing to talk about, and I would love for them to try and pull that crap today. It'd be awesome. Memes. So for number 6, we have a whole family of GPUs. They all share the same name though, so I think it's fair to shove them in here. we've got an 8800. The 8800 family, as I like to call it, because there's a million of these suckers running around. So we actually own one of these, an 8800 GTS. And I have no idea how good it is because there is, let me check my list. You've got the 8800 GS, or if you're an Apple user, it was the 8800 GS, but it was actually an 8800M. You also have the 8800 GTX, 8800 Ultra, 8800 GT, and the 8800 GTS. Can you imagine being a consumer back then? It's like if Microsoft sold an Xbox One, Xbox One X, Xbox One S, Xbox One Series. Can you imagine? What do you even buy? What a horrible naming scheme. And I'm glad they mostly moved on from that nightmare. 1060, 3 gig. TI. You know, you live and you learn. Number 5, we have another entry from Intel. Project Larrabee. It actually never got a real designation, never made it to market. And, you know, you can't really find any that work. There were no drivers made for it. This was Intel's attempt at a GPU, but in an Intel way, where it was kind of like a weird mix of CPU and GPU. This ran like x86 compatible code. It ran a lot of stuff through software instead of with dedicated hardware. NVIDIA roasted the crap out of them with that, saying like it was equivalent to a 4-year-old card already. It was a nightmare. Would have been really cool to see it to market though, because they showed a ray tracing demo back in like 2008. I don't think it was real time. It could have been, might not have been. It was a demo. But can you imagine ray tracing with like at 1024 by 768? Hopefully Intel makes something cool this time.
Although that we can meme about.
That we can meme about. I mean, Raja's in charge, so it's already a meme. So, you know, we'll see how that goes. Alright, number 3.5. Here we go. We have the GTX 970. You may be thinking here, shouldn't we be on number 4's axe? Well, according to NVIDIA, 3.5 and 4 are the same dang thing. This card was memed to death back in the day, and it still gets brought up now since it's a valuable GPU. It's actually okay in today's standards. The whole problem with this thing was NVIDIA tried to pull a sneaky one on us, and they put 3.5 gigs of real VRAM and 500 megs of crap on this card and called it a 4 gig card. I cannot understand what they were thinking. That's like selling a 1060 with half the VRAM and also cut some cores out. That'd be stupid. Well, you know, it's what they do. So yeah, the problem with this card was you'd run a game, you get past 3.5 gigs of VRAM usage, and the game would just suddenly run like crap as it's trying to figure out what is going on here. You've got half the cart being pulled by a really fast horse, and then you've got like one donkey also pulling the horse at the same time. Sorry, it's just so ridiculous. You can't help but laugh at it. So, hilarious card. Actually ran pretty well. It'll hold up okay today. But they just called it a 3.5 gig card or given it a little bit more VRAM. I don't even know how you get to 3.5 gigs of VRAM with normal modules. Was it made out of a bunch of 500 meg modules? Who sold you that? So, for number 3, we've got a Radeon this time. The wait a minute, it's supposed to be a 295 X2. Well, we don't have one of those. We got a sick 290X though. So imagine you take one of these sick cards and you stick another one on the same board and hope you don't burn the house down. That's what AMD did. This card is an aftermarket card, so it's actually pretty tolerable. But the OEM one, the reference design if you will, was a blower card, and that thing was a jet turbine in your poor PC. You couldn't hear your game over this poor card trying to cool itself down from 95C. It was a nightmare. And then AMD decided, you know what? We should stick 2 of them on the same board because we can. And they did. It did not use an air cooler though, and the poor thing was like that long. It actually used an AIO, which is just actually really cool. The card was sick. The case was sick. It looked awesome. Even had a fan on the middle of the card, plus the AIO, and it was a pricey boy. That was your Titan killer. I think this actually competed with the Titan, but that thing put that thing 6 feet under. If your game skill with Crossfire, you don't talk about that. Still, would love to have one of those on site because it's just such a amazing meme of a piece of hardware. You got a card the length of like Oklahoma, and it's just loud and hot and fast. Wow, already on to number 2. Number 2, we've got. Ugh. Okay, well this isn't it. I don't even know if this is slower or faster. They're probably around the same speed. We got the GT210. We've got the GT210. You're like, what is a GT210? And that's the right answer because you should never be cursed with the sight of one of those. That card was slow. Very consistent though. Actually, reviewers praised its consistency and its frame rate delivery because it was too slow to give you more than a frame off because you're getting like 3 frames per second anyways. What? You know, you're really gonna get, oh no, this one's at 4 frames. This one's so much. No, it was trash. This is trash. They're all trash. If it's got a 10 at the end of it, it's probably just an HDMI out for you. That's about all it's good for. So don't try and game on this. Yeah, like the 3200G, 3000G, the Athlon, anything with the word Vega on it's gonna put that thing in the ground. Even my laptop. Sad. Sad, sad. Aren't they making like a 1010 or something now?
Maybe.
I don't know, it's just a joke. Alright, so before we do number 1, we've got an honorable mention. Now this is something we would love to put on the countdown, on the list, but nobody has any to meme about. We're talking about RTX 3000 series. I don't know which one this is. 3080. You see, that's the problem. You can't even tell what these are. This is like the same shroud as a 3070.
Or 3090.
Or 3090. If we had any. These cards run hot, they run loud until you get a cooler that's just a car radiator slapped on there. But they're fast, and you can't buy any. They're all being used by miners, and they only made 3 of them at the factory. I can't wait to get some real memes about these when they get into the hands of the common people. Alright, before I get to number 1, I gotta get some protective equipment here. Alrighty, I think we're good to go. I can still feel it through the mitts. We've got the 480. Oh man, I love this card. I absolutely adore everything about this card. It's beefy, it's loud, it's got a firebombing jet on it. This thing was, I'd say we got roasted, but it roasted us back in the day. This thing was just so hot and so loud. Poor little blower. Okay, joke's over, guys. This thing even has a cutout on the PCB. Didn't they bring that back? I feel like they brought that back for the newer cars. They're starting to cut holes in the PCB again. Because it's just trying to gasp for air to cool thermi. This card ran so hot that even the manufacturer had to put a warning label on it. Look at that, just sizzle. This thing will burn you if you're not careful. Or maybe that's steam for cooking. We boiled an egg on this sucker. Check that out, that was a lot of fun. Hard boiling an egg on a GPU. Only a 480 GTX could do that for you. The thing was fast too for the time. I'm pretty sure AMD smoked them at that time period. Because there was just smoke coming out of this poor thing when you turned it on. Wonderful card. You needed like a whole wind tunnel to cool it in your house. Kept you warm in the winter. It did it all. So there we go. This is my personal list of just memeiest and fun GPUs. Completely picked at just under the most arbitrary conditions. Like the 3.5 gig thing. I saw a meme about it, I'm like, I'm making a video. So hey, you wanna argue with me or give me some tips on something I missed? Because honestly, some of these are older than I am. Well, they're not, but they're older than my knowledge. And I would love to get some more background. So let me know in the comments, let me know on the Discord. You've got a whole gap in my head about SGI and Matrox and who knows what else, and I'd love to hear your opinions and your experiences. So like I said, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.